Along with Pace Wisdom, we created a 5 to 7 year roadmap that this is where we will start and this is where we will reach at the end of, and we are pretty much on our path. An organization like us have put in place a customer support platform who does this for you while not compromising on your privacy. None of the available e-commerce platform today is able to achieve this, and we are able to achieve this. My role at Collective Good Foundation is the head of technology. Priya Naik, our CEO, has mandated me to ensure that our technology system meets the budget, the timeline, meets the expectation of the social sector ecosystem. And that's what I do at Collective Good Foundation. Samhita and Collective Good Foundation's vision is to double the income of more than 10 million, micro entrepreneurs, nano small entrepreneurs, people who are not financially included in the mainstream economics, to double their income by 2030. And for us to be able to do that, there are various services that we provide, because we believe that just by doing one or two social sector intervention, it's not going to help. So to be able to beat inflation and at the same time making sure that the income is doubled, irreversibly doubled, that's the vision Samhita and the Collective Good Foundation have. Pre-COVID, right? Social sector by and large was all about, hey, here are some of the services that the funder ecosystem is interested in. Let's go ahead and fund these services to a demography of people across India. And that was it. Barely anybody thought about the fact that just by providing a certain set of intervention by motivation through the funder, it's not going to help anyone. Yes, there are CSR acts and norms and all of that is in place, but at the end of the day, what was missing is, what does that common man or common woman really want? And to that end, what was happening is, we were doing what we are good at, but to maintain and track the livelihood impact on that individual was getting increasingly difficult due to lack of technology. Things were managed out of any systems or technology for that matter. And then if you were to, reach out back to that same individual to check the impact, to see if you can provide more services, it was getting increasingly difficult. And like, look at the humongous number, right, that we want to achieve, 10 million. Pretty incredible and difficult to handle without technology. So we were pretty sure that the scale at which we want to be able to, reach or achieve, it's going to be only possible if we have technology in place. So that was pre-COVID. While going through the COVID thing, we realized that we need to partner with company like Pace Wisdom, who understand technology better than us. We narrate to them what our vision and mission is and expect them to sort of help us through technology to meet our vision and mission. So that's how Pace Wisdom happened to us. We are more of a alliance partner, and we are moving towards a network ecosystem more than a platform. Let me explain that. Traditional CSR fund management is the following. You have a funder who understands a few services or interventions that can be offered to a certain demography of people. They fund whoever is managing the fund. They use that money to sort of provide those services to the agreed demography of people, and that's it. At the end of the project, you submit an impact report, and that's it. It's a pretty linear flow of operations. Now let's understand what is different that Samhita and CGF does. We build partnership and alliances throughout the social sector ecosystem. If there is a certain, say, entity who's good at providing a service better than us, we don't think that we want to be able to reinvent the wheel. Bring that partner in. Could be a funding partner, could be a technology partner, could be a ministry, quasi government institution, anything, right? We bring all of them together. Funding is not linear for us. If a funder says, hey, look, I understand your entire roadmap, but we could only fund this part, would you be able to raise the funding for the remaining part? We are happy to do that. We take that as a challenge. And so we bring a bunch of funder together. Okay. We bring a bunch of quasi-government institutions together. We bring a bunch of partners together who have proven skills in providing a certain intervention, and bringing all of them together, we build an alliance, and then we serve that common man or women. That's different about Samhita and Collective Good Foundation. First, understand the problem statement that was in front of me when I started with all of this, along with Pace Wisdom. The problem statement was we want to be able to manage at least 5 to 7 different types of services. If I have to name a few, then they are market linkages, unlocking social security, skilling, financial digital literacy, entrepreneurship development. These are some of the interventions that we want to be able to manage. But look, these different sort of interventions cannot be managed in individual different technology systems. It has to be one interoperable system so that the end participant is just onboarded or acquired once. So you reduce the cost of acquisition again and again, and then through the same system you give all of this. So think of it this way. And obviously, sorry, I missed one very important intervention, which is access to capital. So think of it this way: you need something like a banking system, you need something like a e-commerce system, you need something like a edtech system where you sort of provide learning courses and all of that, and you also need something like a social sector scheme related system where there are various different government, central and state government schemes which can be offered to these individuals based on their requirement throughout the different stages of their life cycle. So one system that can provide all of this. Now that's crazy, right? You can't even imagine about it, right? That was the mandate. 7 to 5 different types of intervention in one system. That was the mandate. So with Pace Wisdom, we understood that to build something like this, we have to first sit down and think scale first. Build it like today, it might be very small, but it has to reach to a scale where it is able to accommodate all these services for a 10 million population count over 7 to 10 years. And at the same time, you can't afford to incur that cost today, right? So the cost of the technology ecosystem at the start should be as minimum, as optimum as possible. But at the same time, when you grow it, right, when you expand the various different services, it should follow the architecture. So along with Pace Wisdom, we created a 5 to 7 year roadmap that this is where we will start and this is where we will reach at the end of, and we are pretty much on our path. Let me start with a very basic use case or a fundamental use case. Look at a micro, nano, or a small entrepreneur who you have provided a certain livelihood related service. And then you are doing your audit or your impact assessment on that individual after a certain period. And then you realize that the next service that should be provided to this individual is A, B, C. And then you start with A, go to B, go to C, and obviously you also make sure that there is adequate funding available for us to be able to provide that. And then the cycle continues for each A, B, C, or maybe D, E, F as well. Now, obviously, we built the system with that in mind, but we were pleasantly surprised of how we are actually able to track what impact it has done, because there are several entry points, right? The 5 to 7 services that I listed out a while ago, an individual could come in through any of those entry points. Not necessarily, we identify that social security is the first need and everybody should first go to social. That's not the case, right? Somebody would need access to capital, others would need some knowledge around financial digital literacy. So entry point is different irrespective of whatever your entry point is, right? We should be able to do our MEL assessment, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Through our MEL assessment, we should be able to identify the next set of intervention, make sure that adequate funding is available, and then through that funding, we provide the next set of intervention. We were presently surprised at how easily it was panning out, and we were able to sort of track the impact that all these services is making on that person. That was our test, you can say the litmus test, and thankfully we were able to achieve that. Let me see how many examples I can come up with. First is our implementation partner or our NGO ecosystem. Okay, as you know, these are not corporate offices who would have high end infrastructure at their disposal, and they could use that to cater to that scale of people, right? So they have basic or not any systems in place, right? For them to see that an organization like us having such a system was blessing, right? So they could easily get themselves onboarded, track all of that, all of their work on our system, reach out to those individuals again whenever the next set of services were required. So that's one set of population who used our system, the NGO ecosystem, the implementation partners that we work with. Then let's talk about some quasi-government organization, and one beautiful example of that is the common service centers. So common service centers were primarily looking at, providing all the beautiful social sector schemes that the central and state government announces for their population, and they were providing that. But to sort of map out the journey of the individual and really think what they actually need, not like just push services to them, was the need of the hour. And we managed to integrate with the common service center ecosystem in such a way that now the village level entrepreneur who opens a common service center is able to easily, seamlessly log into our system, see the services that are available, and with a few clicks is able to provide the same services to the same individual who probably has come for some very minimum requirement, say for example just to update their PAN card or Aadhaar card, and now they see how they can seamlessly provide them all the livelihood related services. When we started off with this idea of creating an interoperable system that caters to all different livelihood services, people immediately started ruling out as, you guys are crazy, nobody has done it, and this is not going to happen. I mean, even though they probably won't say it directly, but through their line of questions, you could make out that they are not really onboarded with that idea, right? Samhita CGF is not a technology company, it's a social sector organization. So, irrespective of whether the individual that Samhita brings in who have technology expertise, as an organization, we are not a technology organization. So, we needed someone who has the trust that we know what we want. We are convinced this is going to help. We needed an organization who's not stuck to simply making profit, have the flexibility of working with us, crafting and drafting that entire architecture with us, managing the chaos that we are always into. And that's the journey we took to come to a point where we thought Pace Wisdom is the right sort of candidate to bear with us and help us build this. Because the initially, right, when we started off, the funding was entirely out of our own pocket. That there wasn't anybody who said, "Oh, you're building technology. Let's go ahead and fund it." Okay, that wasn't the case, and still to a large extent it isn't, because when you talk about CSR funding, right, nobody realizes that CSR funding can also be done towards the technology that supports the CSR ecosystem. Nobody thinks that. Everybody thinks, oh, CSR funding, it literally means helping people, helping the nature, and so on and so forth. But the idea of, yeah, you could fund the technology also within the rules and regulation doesn't struck anyone, right? So entire funding is out of our own pocket. Obviously there were various different funders who came on boarded later on when they realized, yes, this is also something that can be done and achieved. So we wanted someone who sort of is flexible, doesn't run behind just making profit, drafts and crafts the entire architecture with us, has the trust on us that we know what we are building, and doesn't really rule us out as a crazy, and this is not something that is possible. So all those check boxes were checked in terms of Pace Wisdom, and that's how we ended up. Let's first agree that no technology solution is perfect technology solution, and there is always room for improvement. But to take the leap of faith that let's start, let's build, is something that requires a lot of strength and guts. So, yeah, I won't say this is the perfect solution. So, like I said, imagine that you want to say provide some basic livelihood intervention. We call it enabling livelihood intervention. Let's start with access to capital. In access to capital, a couple of instruments that we had were returnable grant, which is a very innovative instrument that we developed. It is basically, you get low ticket size funding to run your business, and there is no legal obligation for you to return it back. But hey, if you return it back, right, we promise that we establish a credit history for you, which will then allow you to get loans from proper nationalized bank. And that's the idea, right? Because the people that we cater to, they keep themselves in the cycle of that loan versus interest versus, and they never come out of that. So if you just take out the interest component and take out the risk of losing your mind space, that hey, one day I'll have to pay this back, and then this is huge interest, and how am I going to run my business? If that is taken out, right, that individual can focus on actually building the business as opposed to thinking about funding. So that was one instrument. The other instrument was, a credit guarantee backed loan. Quasi-government institutions like CGTMSC has been doing it since more than a decade now. These are the two instruments. So that's access to capital, and you need a almost like a banking like system or infrastructure to handle that. So think banking systems. Then market linkages, which is pretty much e-commerce. You are doing your business in one corner of India or a village or a district, and if your product is good, you want to be able to sell that product not through traditional and monopolized, e-commerce players, but through more democratized e-commerce network like ONDC. So that's a e-commerce system. Then you need to make sure that this individual, while he is having funding, while he is able to sell his product online, does he understand the nuances of basic profit loss? So financial literacy comes in. Does he understand how digital tools can, is required in these days for you to exponentially grow your business? So digital literacy comes in. Does he understand entrepreneurship, like, to grow your business, what are the things that you need to do? Entrepreneurship is not everyone's cup of tea, right? So entrepreneurship development, so you need to have a entire system like the ones, like, the Coursera's of Udemy's and all of that. So that you need. But the more fundamental thing is you recruit or you register a participant, we call them a participant, either through the banking like ecosystem or through the learning management system like ecosystem or through the e-commerce ecosystem. You register them through any one of these, okay? And then you see through your MEL related operations, you see what do they need, and accordingly then you move them to the other microservice, okay? So with Pace Wisdom, we had drafted out all of this different microservice. So individually, those are not reinventing the wheel, right? I won't say we created a banking system or we created a e-commerce system or we created a learning management. Absolutely not, right? But what we created is how through any one of these entry points you could then get automatically registered to the other service, right? And we will be able to track your progress without rerunning the whole, the whole journey that we started off with. Okay. And hence the microservice architecture was important. You obviously can't have a monolithic structure where if you have to make changes, then you do it all over again. Lives are at stake, right? So you can't take that risk. So if you want to make a change, let's say in the learning management system, because it isn't catering to the social sector ecosystem in a way that it should be, then it shouldn't affect the remaining services, right? Let me give you an example of the e-commerce. So, and this is a beautiful example, by the way. In a traditional e-commerce ecosystem or a platform, a seller, okay, a merchant is supposed to know the nuances of how to run an e-commerce business. Meaning, they are supposed to know how to do cataloging. They are supposed to know how to do inventory management, order fulfillment, right? The entire operations of e-commerce. They're supposed to know that. And of course, I mean, when you say I want to do e-commerce and you say I don't care about all of that, then how are you even doing e-commerce, right? But in the social sector ecosystem, you may not know all of this because an organization like us have put in place a customer support, platform who does this for you, okay, while not compromising on your privacy. Okay, so a customer support will do all your cataloging, will do all your inventory management, will do all your order fulfillment while not knowing your PII, your revenue, whatever you term as privacy, right? While not knowing any of them, they will be able to do that. Now, none of the available e-commerce platform today is able to achieve this, okay, and we are able to achieve this. So, and hence such a microservice architecture was the need of the hour, where you have a very strong role based access control that allows a customer support team to handle a set of sellers, do all of these operations on behalf of them, right, while not compromising on their privacy. So the entrepreneur only focuses on product or service or product manufacturing, and the rest of the things are taken care by the customer support. So that's how we were able to achieve it through a microservice architecture. So let's divide it in two parts. One is the CTO or the CEO have absolutely, perfect idea of what they are building. They know what they are building, and they sort of do an end-to-end, requirement analysis to the T. Like they know the services that would be needed. All the cloud engineering is done. All the data structuring is done. All the tech stack is outlined. The DevOps is set up. Like everything is done, and you just give it to a technology partner like Pace Wisdom. So that's one part. The second part is you're unsure. Okay, you just have the idea in your mind, and you want to work with someone who can build on that idea and get you to a point where all of this is. These are the two parts. So for the first part, where you are absolutely sure, I think, as the name suggests, Pace Wisdom, you guys are like absolutely with good pace. You adapt to it pretty quickly. You would see that, okay, basic, right? It's everything is outlined. Let's just put the right resources for everything that is outlined by the CTO and CEO, and just get on with it. Obviously, you will agree on the timelines and all of that. And I'm pretty sure with a 5 to 10% deviation, you will be able to achieve the timelines and the budget. Okay. On the second category, where the CEO and CTO, is unsure, they have an idea. There also, I think my advice would be, don't be worried that you haven't yet figured it out. Okay, just make sure that you have a very clear one pager of what is in your mind. Just put it on a paper, get onboarded, work with the Pace Wisdom team, and they will be able to draft it out for you. And then once both of you all are aligned, you can start the work. Let's agree, right, that technology is here to stay. You think of any business for that matter today, without adequate technology to scale it up is not possible. And especially in the social sector, where you have marginalized population who are still sort of doing their own thing and probably 10, 15, 20 years behind the rest of the population, it's even more important. It's easy, by the way, because you've already tested it with the rest of the population and you know it works. Don't be afraid whether it's going to work or not. Just go for it. You have ample of evidence that it has worked for some set of population, so there's no need of double checking. You know it has worked, so it will work for the remaining set of population also. Okay, so go for it. Don't think that it's going to cost us. You have to take the leap of faith. Today there are various pay as you go method, which sort of takes care of your pockets as well, right? So take the leap of faith and go ahead with it. That would be my message to especially the social sector organization who want to sort of leverage technology.